Ben 10, Omniverse, Blukich, and Driba Go to Mr. Smoothies, unwatchable television. Blukich and Driba Go to Mr. Smoothies is the fourth episode of the second season of Ben 10, Omniverse, and the 14th episode overall, which aired on the 15th of December 2012. The episode focuses on two minor Galvan characters, Blukich and Driba, as they abandon their duties at Plumber headquarters to search for smoothies while a major threat attacks Earth. Critics and fans widely consider this episode one of the worst in the Ben 10 franchise due to its boring plot, annoying characters, and complete waste of potential. Ben 10 Omniverse was the fourth series in the Ben 10 franchise, running from 2012 to 2014. The show brought back the classic Ben 10 art style but featured an older teenage Ben paired with a new alien partner named Rook Blanco. By this point in the series, the show was already receiving criticism for declining quality compared to earlier Ben 10 seasons. Blukich and Driba are two Galvan aliens, the same species as the brilliant scientist Azimuth, who created the Omnitrix, who work as resident geniuses for the Plumbers organization. Despite being from the smartest species in the galaxy, both characters are portrayed as bumbling idiots, whose main purpose is failed comic relief. The episode was directed by J.H. Kim and Jae-Hong Kim, with voice work from Yuri Lowenthal, Ben, Paul Eading, Grandpa Max, Bumper Robinson, Blukich, and D. Bradley Baker, Driba, and others. The episode's title and basic plot is a reference to the movie Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, but fails to capture any of the humor or charm of that film. This episode represents a major problem with Ben 10 Omniverse, the tendency to focus entire episodes on minor comic relief characters who cannot carry a story. While Ben 10 had successfully done character-focused episodes before, this one demonstrates how badly the concept can fail when the characters are inherently annoying and the plot is paper-thin. The episode begins during an important crisis that immediately shows how useless Blukich and Driba are. Trombi Polor, a villain from Ben 10, Ultimate Alien, has returned to Earth seeking a mysterious ultimate power. Ben, having transformed into four arms, is fighting Trombi Puler in the streets of Bellwood while Rook and other plumbers provide backup. The situation escalates when Rook tries to contact Plumber headquarters for immediate assistance. He speaks into his Plumber badge comm link saying, "Plumber HQ, we need immediate assistance." I repeat, immediate assistance. But his call goes unanswered because Blukich and Driba are supposed to be monitoring communications but are instead goofing around. At Plumber headquarters, Blukich and Driba are working on fixing their TV monitor, completely ignoring their responsibilities. When Trombipular throws a car and damages the video feed, they simply change the channel instead of taking the emergency call. This is when they see a Mr. Smoothies commercial advertising a new grasshopper smoothie flavor. The commercial uses the tagline, "Mr. Smoothies, where a kid can be smooth," and "Try our new grasshopper smoothie." Blukich and Driba become instantly obsessed, drooling over the advertisement and chanting, "Mr. Smoothies," in unison. They immediately decide to abandon their posts to go find smoothies. Meanwhile, the crisis continues to escalate. Grandpa Max realizes that their best chance of defeating Trombipular is through specialized equipment that only Blukich and Driba can create. However, when he goes to find them, he discovers they have left a note saying, "Don't call on us, we call you," meaning they've gone AWOL during a major emergency. This setup immediately establishes how selfish and irresponsible the main characters are. While Ben and Rook are risking their lives to save the city, and Max desperately needs their help, Blukich and Driba care more about getting a smoothie than doing their jobs or helping their friends. The bulk of the episode follows Blukich and Driba's increasingly ridiculous quest to find a Mr. Smoothie's location. Despite being supposed geniuses, They immediately get lost, driving through Bellwood in their hovering vehicle. Driba attempts to use GPS to find Mr. Smoothies, but this proves completely useless, showing how incompetent they are with basic technology. Their first encounter shows how out of touch they are with Earth. They meet a boy drinking a smoothie and eagerly ask him for directions to Mr. Smoothies. When he reveals he got his smoothie from a nearby fruit and smoothie kiosk, both Galvins are disgusted and drive off. This scene demonstrates their snobbery and single-minded obsession with the specific brand rather than just getting a smoothie. The episode then splits between two equally frustrating storylines. Ben and Rook continue chasing Trombipolor, who is sniffing out his ultimate power source. During their pursuit, Rook mentions that he's been receiving maps containing the locations of the 23 Mr. Smoothies in Bellwood. Ben is surprised to learn there are 23 locations, since he only knew about 22, which becomes a running gag that leads nowhere meaningful. Ben transforms into Humungosaur to fight Trombipolor, but even this powerful alien form cannot defeat the villain. Trombipolor easily lifts Humungosaur over his head and throws him, then continues his rampage while gloating about the ultimate power he seeks. Meanwhile, Blukich and Driba's adventure becomes increasingly absurd and annoying. Driba pulls out what he calls a piece of paper predating GPS technology, which humans call a map, but while trying to read it, Blukich accidentally steers their vehicle into the path of a bus. They panic, screaming, "I don't want to die," and "We're gonna die." But their small vehicle manages to go under the bus, though it crashes in Bellwood City Park. Even after crashing, Blukich cheerfully says, "That wasn't so bad," while Driba is exasperated, groaning, "Not so bad. Our car is totaled, and we're lost." This exchange shows how obliviously optimistic Blukich is, and how whiny Driba becomes when things don't go his way. The situation gets worse when both characters need to use the bathroom. They have an extended, uncomfortable discussion about the appropriateness of aliens relieving themselves in earth bushes, with Driba lecturing about complex physiological reasons and potential environmental catastrophe. This crude humor feels completely out of place in Ben 10 and adds nothing to the story. While they're distracted with bathroom needs, a squirrel steals their crashed vehicle, which somehow still flies. They watch in disbelief as the squirrel, wearing Blukich's driving mask, flies away in their car. Rather than being concerned about losing their transportation, Blukich happily says, "Told you it could fly," showing how disconnected from reality he is. Now, stranded and walking through Bellwood, they continue their pointless quest. Blukich repeatedly asks, "Are we there yet?" which annoys Driba, who snaps, "Will you stop asking me that? We're lost. How am I supposed to know where we're going and when we're going to be there?" This childish banter continues throughout their journey. When they encounter Trombipolor in the street, they barely escape being crushed by his massive foot. Ben and Rook appear, chasing the villain, and Blukich and Driba call out to Ben for help. However, when Rook urges Ben to continue the chase, Ben tells them to "Stay put, we'll have the plumbers come back and pick you up," and runs off. Instead of following Ben's reasonable instruction, Blukich convinces Driba to continue searching for Mr. Smoothies. They worry that if anyone discovered they were on an unauthorized Mr. Smoothies run, they would get demoted to Level 1 Science Team and have to go back to telling simpletons how to turn their computers off and then on again. Their adventure becomes even more ridiculous when they decide to ride a cat to find Mr. Smoothies. Driba thinks the cat seems friendly, despite it hissing and screeching at them. They climb onto the cat, with Driba insisting, "This cat knows the way to get to Mr. Smoothies," and claiming the cat is nodding yes, when it's actually just wagging its tail. The cat runs through the streets, climbs pipes, and jumps from rooftop to rooftop, while Blukich and Driba scream in terror. When the cat finally stops at a rooftop near the docks and dumps them off, Driba realizes, "Hey, this isn't Mr. Smoothies," and yells at the cat, "Bad kitty, bad kitty." The episode's climax occurs when Trombi-Pullor reveals his ultimate power source, peanuts. When he eats peanuts from a boat at the docks, he grows to enormous size, rivaling Ben's Way Big transformation. This leads to a giant battle between Way Big and the supersized Trombi-Pullor. During this battle, Trombi-Pullor summons his robotic minions, mechanical mice designed to be the most fearsome-looking creatures in the galaxy. When Ben questions whether mice are frightening, the robots reveal spikes and grow larger, becoming genuinely threatening. This creates an ironic situation where Trombi-Pullor, an elephant-like alien, fears mice but creates robot versions as weapons. Blukich and Driba get caught up in the battle when the robot mice attack them. They end up hanging from a rope, then fall into a pile of peanuts. When more robots surround them, they panic until Trombi-Pullor accidentally inhales them, along with Ben, who had transformed into goop. Inside Trombi-Pullor's mouth, the episode finally gives Blukich and Driba something useful to do. Blukich decides he's tired of running and charges at the robots. He manages to rewire one of the robotic mice to attack its companions and teaches Driba how to do the same. This creates enough of a distraction for Ben as Echo Echo to use his wall of sound attack on Trombi-Pullor's sensitive elephant ears, defeating the villain. However, even this moment of competence feels unearned, since it comes after an entire episode of the characters being useless and annoying. After all their ridiculous adventures, Blukich and Driba finally find a Mr. Smoothies location, but it closes just as they reach it. As they stand outside crying about their failure, Ben and Rook arrive. When the clerk notices Ben's presence through the window, he immediately reopens the store for the famous hero. Ben helps Blukich and Driba get their grasshopper smoothies, and they consume numerous drinks while telling Ben their story. When Ben asks if going through all this trouble for smoothies was worth it, they enthusiastically respond that it was. The episode ends with Ben promising to help them find the mysterious 23rd Mr. Smoothies location next time. This ending attempts to provide a heartwarming conclusion, but it falls completely flat because the audience has spent 23 minutes watching two selfish characters abandon their responsibilities during a crisis just to get smoothies. The fact that they show no remorse for potentially endangering Earth makes the happy ending feel undeserved and tone-deaf. Blukich and Driba Go to Mr. Smoothies received overwhelmingly negative reviews from Ben 10 fans and is frequently cited as one of the worst episodes in the entire franchise. The episode scored 7.5 on IMDb, which is relatively low for Ben 10 standards, and fan discussions consistently rank it among the series' biggest failures. One viewer on the Anime Superhero Forum wrote, "I didn't care much for this episode. Blukich and Driba struggling to get a smoothie just wasn't funny. They were trying, but nothing came off as funny to me. I think that both of them being fairly stupid, despite their jobs with the plumbers, is supposed to be funny, but it just makes them look annoying." The same reviewer continued, "I like the new design for Way Big and Ben's reaction to a 23rd Mr. Smoothies was kind of funny, but other than that, I thought that this episode was boring. I hope that the next new episode will be more entertaining to watch." On fan ranking sites, Blukich and Driba are consistently listed among the worst Ben 10 characters. One fan wrote, "I don't even know what these guys did to become plumbers. It's so annoying because they began to appear in most of the episodes in Omniverse. Blukich is a slim Galvan with a peasant voice, while Driba is a fat Galvan with a British accent. They are just standing around trying to be funny, but their jokes fail." The criticism continues. Also, they left their responsibilities at the plumber headquarters to find Mr. Smoothie. God, I wish these two died in explosion. These two Galvans are the worst thing ever, and they aren't even funny. They're just a bad comic relief. I wish them fired from the Plumbers." Another fan on IMDb noted, "The Plumbers have become a bunch of idiotic, mumbling fools in Omniverse. I was so excited that we would be getting to see more Plumbers, but most are unbearable to watch. Especially Blukich and Driba. Even positive Ben 10, Omniverse reviews often single out this episode as a low point. One reviewer mentioned, 'Oh, and there's always the episode Blukich and Driba go to Mr. Smoothies' when listing examples of the show's worst moments. Production issues and missed opportunities. The episode represents several fundamental problems with Ben 10, Omniverse's approach to storytelling and character development. The decision to give an entire episode to two minor comic relief characters who cannot carry a story shows poor judgment from the creative team. The episode also wastes several potentially interesting elements. The return of Trombipolor could have been used for a compelling villain story, but instead he becomes a background threat while the focus stays on the Galvan's boring quest. The revelation that Peanuts can make his species grow giant-sized could have been an interesting plot point, but it's treated as a throwaway gag. The episode marks the Omniverse debuts of classic aliens Way Big and Goop, but their appearances feel perfunctory rather than meaningful. Fans had been waiting to see these popular transformations in the new art style, but their introduction is overshadowed by the tedious main plot. There are also missed opportunities for character development. The episode could have explored what makes Blukich and Driba qualified to be plumber scientists despite their apparent incompetence, or shown them learning to take their responsibilities more seriously. Instead, they face no consequences for abandoning their duties and show no growth by the episode's end. Impact on the series. Blukich and Driba Go to Mr. Smoothies became a symbol of Ben 10, Omniverse's declining quality and poor creative decisions. The episode demonstrated the show's tendency to waste time on pointless subplots and annoying characters instead of developing the main story or beloved characters. The negative reception may have influenced later episodes, as Blukich and Driba's roles were somewhat reduced in subsequent seasons. However, they continued to appear regularly throughout Omniverse, much to many fans' frustration. The episode also represents the broader problem of Ben 10. Omniverse trying to appeal to younger audiences with crude humor and slapstick comedy while alienating older fans who preferred the more serious storytelling of previous series. For many fans, this episode serves as a perfect example of what went wrong with Ben 10, Omniverse, and why the series is often considered the weakest in the franchise. It stands as a cautionary tale about giving major screen time to characters who work better in small doses and the importance of maintaining focus on compelling main characters and plots. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Adventure Time, No One Can Hear You. Adventure Time, No One Can Hear You, pure nightmare fuel. No One Can Hear You is the 15th episode in the third season of Adventure Time and the 67th episode overall, which aired on the 14th of November 2011. The episode follows Finn as he wakes up from a coma to find his legs broken, Jake driven insane by a head injury, and all the candy people mysteriously missing. What begins as a simple story about a deer licking candy people quickly transforms into one of Adventure Time's most disturbing and horror-filled episodes, featuring genuinely unsettling imagery that gave many viewers nightmares. This episode was written and storyboarded by Jesse Moynihan and Ako Castuera, and directed by Bong Hee-han and Larry Likeleader. It aired during Adventure Time's third season, which many fans consider the point when the show truly became something special and began exploring darker, more complex themes alongside its colorful adventure format. Adventure Time's third season marked a significant evolution for the series, moving beyond simple adventure stories to tackle sophisticated psychological and emotional themes. No One Can Hear You represents this shift perfectly, functioning as what one reviewer called practically a psychological thriller that's very creepy, atmospheric, and genuinely unsettling. The episode deliberately incorporates numerous horror movie references and creates an atmosphere more reminiscent of adult horror films than typical children's animation. The storytellers made clear from the beginning that this would be a horror episode, with the title itself echoing the tagline from the 1979 movie Alien: In Space, No One Can Hear You Scream. The title card visually references both Edvard Munch's famous painting The Scream and the poster for Alfred Hitchcock's film Vertigo, immediately signaling to viewers that they're about to experience something different from typical Adventure Time fare. The episode opens with deceptive normalcy that quickly turns dark. The story begins in medias res with a deer bounding around the Candy Kingdom, licking various candy people's faces. Princess Bubblegum calls for help as Starchy screams, "Ah, get it off," while the deer continues to jump on and lick the citizens. Finn and Jake respond to the crisis, with Finn shouting, "We're coming," and Princess Bubblegum warning them to be careful. The deer's behavior initially seems like a minor annoyance, strange but not particularly threatening. Jake and Finn pursue the animal, with Finn calling out, "Grab him, Jake," as they attempt to capture it. However, what appears to be a simple rescue mission takes a shocking turn. When Finn and Jake grab onto the deer, it panics and runs away, first throwing Jake off. The deer kicks Jake in the head, causing what will later prove to be serious brain damage. Then, in a moment that's shockingly brutal by the show's usual standards, the deer deliberately breaks Finn's legs. The transcript notes that when the deer stomps on Finn's legs, there are audible cracking sounds, and Finn's only reaction is to moan "whatever" in a pained voice. This moment of major injury under reaction becomes even more disturbing when viewers realize Finn is seriously hurt, but trying to downplay his pain. The deer then throws Finn against a building with such force that he's knocked unconscious. All of this violence occurs within the first minute of the episode, including the opening credits, establishing immediately that this episode will be darker and more brutal than typical Adventure Time content. Main event. Finn awakens in a hospital bed in the Candy Kingdom, his legs wrapped in casts. He calls out, "Oh, what happened? Where's the deer?" Paging Dr. Ice Cream, but receives no response. The hospital appears completely deserted, creating an atmosphere similar to the opening of the movie, 28 Days Later. Finding a wheelchair next to his bed, Finn drags himself into it and ventures outside to explore. The entire Candy Kingdom is empty, a stark contrast to its usual bustling activity filled with cheerful candy citizens. This everyone is gone episode setup creates an immediate sense of dread and isolation. Eventually, Finn finds Jake digging around in trash, occasionally reaching for a bandage on his head and saying, "Ouchies." Jake's behavior immediately seems off. He's dirty, disoriented, and has bugs crawling out of his ears. When Finn asks where everyone is, Jake becomes evasive and mentions a surprise party that Lady Rainicorn supposedly organized for him. Jake's mental state becomes increasingly apparent as he claims he's been waiting 6 months for people to come out for his birthday party. This wham line reveals that Finn has been unconscious far longer than he realized, and that Jake's head injury has left him seriously mentally impaired. The horror deepens as Jake's insane troll logic becomes clear. Since everyone disappeared around the time of his head injury, Jake convinced himself that they're all hiding to throw him a surprise birthday party. His brain damage prevents him from understanding that something terrible has actually happened. When Finn tries to investigate sounds coming from a nearby sewer that remind him of the Candy People, Jake becomes agitated and tries to stop him. Jake insists they need to wait for the surprise and that Finn will ruin it if he looks for everyone. Jake's attempts to prevent Finn from finding the truth become increasingly desperate and controlling. The situation escalates when Finn realizes the truth about Jake's condition. After observing Jake's strange behavior, including the bugs crawling from his ears and his disconnected rambling, Finn sadly concludes, "Face it, Finn. Your best friend is gone." This moment represents one of the episode's most tragic elements, Finn recognizing that his best friend and brother is no longer mentally present. When Finn attempts to make a daring escape for the sewer, Jake stops him and destroys his wheelchair. Finn then wakes up tied to a post, revealing that Jake has been restraining him to prevent him from discovering the truth. Jake has created fake candy people, puppets from scavenged junk, and tied colorful party balloons to his head that lift him off the ground, with cinder blocks tied to his feet to keep him anchored. Immediate aftermath. The episode's climax occurs when Finn finally breaks free and discovers the truth in the sewers. Following the sounds he heard earlier, Finn finds all the candy people stuck to the walls with a sticky orange substance. The scene directly references the hive sequence from the movie Alien, with the candy citizens trapped and helpless like victims in a horror film. Princess Bubblegum and the other candy people are barely conscious, weakly calling for help. The deer appears in the sewer, and in the episode's most disturbing reveal, it stands on its hind legs and walks toward them like a person. Most shocking of all, the deer removes what turn out to be fake hooves, revealing human-like hands with fingers underneath. This transformation moment, when the deer takes off his hooves and wiggles his fingers around, became one of the most nightmare-inducing images in Adventure Time history. One reviewer noted, "I'm not shitting you guys. That deer is in my fucking nightmares." Nothing creeps me out more in this episode than when he takes off his hooves and wiggles his fingers around. The deer's method of capturing victims is equally disturbing. It uses its orange adhesive saliva to trap the candy people, licking them to coat them in the sticky substance before dragging them to the sewer and adhering them to the walls. The way it licks people and sticks them to the wall is out of a full-fledged motherfucking horror movie. During the final confrontation, both Finn and Jake fight the deer despite their injuries. Finn battles on his still broken legs, while Jake, despite his head trauma, manages to help free the candy people. The deer's defeat comes when Jake drops a cinder block on its head, and the episode shows his skull get crushed and his neck broken, in what's described as family-unfriendly death that's unusually graphic for Adventure Time. When Peppermint Butler is freed from the wall, he weakly tells Finn and Jake, You did not do this, Jake. It was him," pointing to the deer. This revelation clears Jake of responsibility and confirms that the deer was the true villain all along. The episode's resolution attempts to return to Adventure Time's typical lighter tone, but the damage has been done. After defeating the deer, the group escapes the sewers, with Jake carrying everyone as they float away on the balloons still tied to him. Princess Bubblegum explains that the deer wanted our sugar and winks at Finn, though this explanation raises more questions than it answers. Finn reveals that his legs are still broken despite the time that has passed, suggesting either that his injuries were more severe than initially apparent or that he healed incorrectly. Some fans interpret his cheerful delivery of this line as a joke, while others see it as evidence of lasting trauma. The episode ends with everyone taking a bath to get clean after their ordeal, with a candy person saying, "I want to get clean." This ending attempts to provide closure and cleansing after the horror, but many viewers found it difficult to shake the disturbing images they had witnessed. The deer's ultimate fate remains ambiguous. It's shown being washed away in the sewers, but whether it's truly dead or could return remains unclear. The character made brief cameo appearances in later episodes, suggesting it may have survived in some form. No One Can Hear You received widespread acclaim for its bold approach to horror within the Adventure Time format, earning an 8.3 rating on IMDb. However, it also became infamous among fans for being genuinely frightening and giving viewers nightmares. One viewer commented, "This episode gave me actual frightening nightmares when I first saw it." While another noted, "This is actually the creepiest episode of all of AT to me. I don't know why, but to me, it's even creepier than the blank-eyed girl." Critics praised the episode's atmosphere and psychological complexity. Adventure Time Reviewed called it one of my all-time favorites, despite being relatively humorless and functioning as practically a psychological thriller. The review noted how the episode takes the series and its characters in an incredibly dark and unpleasant direction, yet is still able to be completely enjoyable and engaging. The episode's success comes from its masterful use of horror techniques typically reserved for adult audiences. It employs classic horror tropes, including isolated protagonist. Finn wakes up alone in an abandoned hospital, echoing countless horror films. False security. Jake's presence initially seems comforting until his mental state becomes apparent. Body horror. The deer's transformation and the imagery of people stuck to walls. Psychological terror. Jake's brain damage and deteriorating mental state. Jump scares. The deer's sudden appearances and aggressive behavior. Disturbing imagery. Human hands hidden beneath animal hooves. People trapped in organic material. The episode also incorporates numerous specific horror references. Beyond the obvious alien connections, reviewers noted similarities to Stephen King's It sewer setting, carnival music, balloon imagery, 28 Days Later, abandoned hospital opening, and classic Alfred Hitchcock films, title card design. The episode's horror elements were carefully crafted through both visual and audio design. The empty Candy Kingdom creates an immediate sense of wrongness. 7io. A place normally filled with colorful, cheerful citizens becomes eerily quiet and abandoned. Jake's deteriorating mental state is shown through subtle details. Bugs crawling from his ears, his poor hygiene, his makeshift puppets created from trash, and his disconnection from reality. These elements combine to create a portrait of someone suffering from serious brain trauma without ever explicitly stating the medical details. The deer's design deliberately subverts expectations. Initially appearing as a normal animal causing minor mischief, it gradually reveals increasingly disturbing characteristics. Its aggressive behavior, its adhesive saliva, its human-like intelligence, and finally, its hidden human hands. The episode's pacing contributes significantly to its horror impact. Unlike typical Adventure Time episodes that maintain high energy throughout, No One Can Hear You takes time for quiet, atmospheric moments where Finn explores the empty kingdom and slowly pieces together what has happened. Some countries censored portions of the episode, particularly the scene where the unconscious deer is pushed into the sewer drain, suggesting that broadcasters recognized the content as potentially too intense for younger viewers. The episode explores themes of isolation, mental illness, and the loss of loved ones to trauma. Finn's journey represents someone dealing with both physical injury and the psychological trauma of seeing a beloved friend suffer brain damage. Jake's condition raises serious questions about identity and personality. His head injury has fundamentally changed who he is, creating a tragic situation where his body is present but his mind is largely gone. The episode doesn't shy away from showing how brain trauma can completely alter someone's personality and perception of reality. Finn's response to Jake's condition demonstrates remarkable maturity and determination. Despite his own serious injuries, Finn continues trying to help both Jake and the missing candy people. His decision to pursue the truth even when Jake tries to stop him shows growth in his character. The deer serves as a unique villain, not supernatural or magical like many Adventure Time antagonists, but a predator using natural abilities, adhesive saliva, physical strength, and intelligence to capture prey. Its human hands suggest it may be more than just an animal, but the episode never fully explains its nature. Princess Bubblegum's cryptic explanation about the deer wanting sugar and her suggestive wink to Finn implies darker themes that the episode leaves deliberately vague. This ambiguity allows adult viewers to read more sinister implications while keeping the content technically appropriate for younger audiences. No One Can Hear You demonstrated Adventure Time's ability to tackle genuinely dark subject matter while maintaining its essential character. The episode proved that the show could function as psychological horror when appropriate, expanding the range of stories it could tell. The episode's success likely influenced later Adventure Time episodes that dealt with serious themes like trauma, mental illness, and loss. It showed that the show's audience was ready for more sophisticated and emotionally complex content. However, the episode also established boundaries for how dark Adventure Time could go. While it pushed into genuinely disturbing territory, it ultimately returned to the show's core values of friendship, healing, and hope by the end. The deer became an iconic Adventure Time villain, despite appearing in only one major episode. Its design and the horror it represents became symbolic of the show's ability to create genuinely frightening content within its colorful, fantastical world. The episode showcases exceptional animation and sound design that contributes to its horror atmosphere. The Empty Candy Kingdom feels genuinely abandoned, with subtle details like overturned objects and missing characters creating a sense of recent disaster. Jake's character animation effectively conveys his mental deterioration through body language, facial expressions, and movement patterns. His makeshift puppets and balloon setup create visual comedy that's simultaneously tragic given the context. The deer's animation is particularly effective, with its initial graceful leaping giving way to aggressive, predatory movements. The moment when it reveals its human hands is animated with deliberate, unsettling effect. Sound design plays a crucial role in building tension. The Empty Kingdom's unnatural quiet, the subtle sounds from the sewers, and Jake's increasingly disconnected dialogue all contribute to the growing sense of dread. No One Can Hear You became a touchstone episode for discussions about how far children's animation can push into adult territory. It demonstrated that shows aimed at younger audiences could tackle serious themes and create genuinely sophisticated content. The episode spawned numerous fan discussions, theories, and analyses, with viewers debating everything from the deer's true nature to the timeline of events to Jake's exact medical condition. This level of engagement showed that Adventure Time had created something that resonated with audiences on multiple levels. The deer's human hands became one of Adventure Time's most memorable and frequently referenced images. The moment appears in compilation videos of the show's creepiest moments and continues to be cited by fans as one of the most disturbing things they've seen in animation. The episode also influenced other animated series, showing that there was an audience for more sophisticated, occasionally frightening content in shows that traditionally targeted younger viewers. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown.